anytime you get a chance to increase your odds, I think that's our responsibility, and I believe we did that by adding Jae Crowder. We made a big move to take, I believe, our already championship competitive roster and inch it even closer. Starting with Jae would be his defensive versatility, his size, his toughness, his experience that he has guarding multiple positions and guarding in multiple schemes. So it's kind of fitting for this Bucks film series here. But I really think he's versatile, not only in his skill sets, but in his ability to play in different schemes. And then offensively, he's a proven NBA shooter regular season, but more importantly for us, he's a proven playoff shooter because of his size, because of his ability to make deep threes above the break, his willingness and his effectiveness shooting. He became a really good fit for us offensively and defensively, and a guy that we targeted.
The series is called Bucks Film Room, but when the general manager makes time for you, Jon, I thought instead of breaking down clips and film, we would do a breakdown of the team. And you get to set the tone at the start. What is top of mind for you right now, heading into the second half of the season? The trade deadline is behind you. What are you thinking about right now?
Yeah, thinking a ton about this team as constructed. We made a big move to take, I believe, our already championship competitive roster and inch it even closer. Anytime you get a chance to increase your odds, I think that's our responsibility, and I believe we did that by adding Jae Crowder. The way the deal was constructed, we had an opportunity to create roster flexibility, which I'm sure we'll get into, and so we have some other opportunities with this roster yet going forward. I'm thinking about the remaining schedule and how do we maximize being healthy, being together, really being on a roll and playing well together, playing the best basketball we can going into the playoffs, hopefully maximizing our seeding. And so there's a lot of things going on, but right now, a little bit of a decompression, reflecting back on the addition to our roster with Jae Crowder, the opportunities we have in front of us with these roster spots.
You talked about the schedule and the games. When you play playoff contenders and championship contenders, right? Are those considered big games? How do you see those? I mean, I think of, a game with Phoenix, 2 games with Phoenix. The Warriors, right? You still have to put them in that category because of the roster. Sacramento's been doing really well. You still have a matchup with Denver out west. Are those big games? I know fans see it that way. How do you all see it?
Coming out of the All-Star break, I think we have 24 remaining games, 12 home, 12 away. We'll play 15 to 18, in my estimation, playoff type competitors. And I think those are big games. You love those measuring sticks, those opportunities to play against the other great teams in the NBA. There's a lot of them this year. You want to see how you match up. You want to see the different things that they try to do against you, the things that you think you're great at. You want to pressure test it against teams, whether that be offensively or defensively. And so it doesn't always work out that those matchups end up being marquee and super impactful, and sometimes it's based on injury or different circumstances. But to the best of our ability, the more exposures we get throughout the course of the season against the best teams in the NBA gives us the best information to really assess and evaluate where we're at. We did that going into the trade deadline. We use those exposures as part of our evaluation. We'll do that going into the playoffs as we try to prepare for the playoffs as well.
And you mentioned using the first part of the season to decide how you move forward with the trade deadline. First part of the season, there were so many injuries and guys in and out, but I feel like we saw the reliability of this roster. What do you feel like got you all through those stretches?
Yeah, I think the character of our team comes to mind, the depth of our team, our coaching. I think Bud has done a masterful job this year coaching this team and really keeping everyone engaged and playing hard every night and managing different lineups and different minutes and things like that. The players, Giannis has had a remarkable start to the season. He's the MVP of our league, in my opinion, what he's done this year. Brook Lopez is the Defensive Player of the Year. Brook has been steady and available every game and has played fantastic this year. Defensively is where he gets the most credit right now, ironically, but offensively he's having a career year. And then you look at guys like Jrue Holiday, who's emerged as an all-star this year. It's because of what he's done this season and really stepping up and performing night in and night out for this team. And kind of go on down the list. Pat Connaughton and Bobby, I think, is the 6th man of the year. We've had a lot of guys step up and step in when needed, which has allowed us to be in a position to be one of the top teams in the conference as we stand today, in spite of some of the adversity that this team has seen. But as long as you can get through that in a positive way, I think that's actually a building block and an important part to a championship run is experiencing adversity and rising above it. And I think this team's done it for a lot of reasons.
So based on everything you saw in the first half of the season, why was Jae Crowder a piece that made sense for this group?
Yeah, I think starting with Jae would be his defensive versatility, his size, his toughness, his experience that he has guarding multiple positions and guarding in multiple schemes. So it's kind of fitting for this Bucks film series here. But I really think he's versatile, not only in his skill sets, but in his ability to play in different schemes. And then offensively, he's a proven NBA shooter regular season, but more importantly for us, he's a proven playoff shooter because of his size, because of his ability to make deep threes above the break, his willingness and his effectiveness shooting. He became a really good fit for us offensively and defensively, and a guy that we targeted. I think Jae's played in 2 NBA finals, 3 conference finals, and he's top 5 or 6 in the NBA over the last 4 or 5 seasons in three-pointers made in the playoffs. And so when you look at that, all of that known as a defensive player, he just became a great target. He wasn't the only guy we targeted, but one of our main targets, and we were able to acquire him.
You talked about schemes specifically defensively, and I just think it's a unique opportunity to kind of break it down for the fan. Jae Crowder, with his size and his athletic abilities, has a way where he can get over screens, under screens, or in the playoffs, especially that Celtics series, maybe sometimes switching. Why is that important to have the farther you go in the postseason?
I think versatility is everything. It's for our players to have someone that can kind of balance them and guard different positions. It allows Giannis to do things differently, maybe on offense on certain plays. Drew Holiday not to always have to guard the other team's best offensive player, regardless of position. Brook Lopez to maybe help guard down, to a big man. So it just opens up alignments and different options for the coach and for our roster. But you also have to have the intellect and the experience to execute different schemes and to be able to move on the fly and understand the game. And Jae has a wealth of experience in addition to his physical gifts and his kind of schematic gifts.
You said that getting Jae Crowder was probably one of the most unique and challenging deals you've had to do, and I want to dive into that. Why? Why did it end up being that way?
I think the length of the pursuit fairly well chronicled. We targeted Jae as someone that would be a great fit for us a while ago and opened up and had very good conversations with Phoenix, and they were in a position where they were, on the record of trying to find a good home for Jae, and so we negotiated those deals and worked on it and got close to executing deals a few different times in different ways and for different reasons. Those fell apart. And then ultimately, as we were on the waking hour of the deadline, he got traded to another team, and it completely flipped the script and put us into a new set of negotiations, had a new set of competitors, a new team to work with, and a new dynamic. And so I think all of that culminating and kind of the length of it and the uniqueness of having to kind of change the conversations and how we tried to acquire him, in addition to the fact that he hadn't played in the regular season yet this year, and so trying to navigate understanding his health and his readiness and his availableness and things like that, just really created a unique player acquisition from my seat, and been involved in this in some form or fashion for 17, 18 years. So this one was unique. The result was the same. We got the player that we wanted, and hopefully it works out.
Coach Bud has said that Jae will not play until after the All-Star break, and I'm thinking of all the different lineup. This roster has so much talent. Do you ever smile and say, yeah, I'm glad Coach Bud is Coach Bud and you get to make the decisions where you do, because he has a tough job of trying to figure out how to weave in all the guys that have the ability to be on that court?
Yeah, definitely thankful he's the coach, but none of these decisions are made in a vacuum, and none of them are unilateral. Bud and I are in Peter Feigin. We have a great partnership, and we're resourced and supported by our ownership group. And everything that we do, we spend a ton of time talking with each other, working on it together. We run it through all of our filters and really try to make the best decision we can. But at the end of the day, it is his job to coach the team, to figure out how the pieces fit best on the floor and really maximize the talent of this roster. And it's our job to give him the best fitting, most talented pieces we can to have a chance to win. And so at some level, our job is done, and his job is just beginning, but he's built for it. He's an NBA Coach of the Year. He's an NBA champion, beyond a great partner and friend of mine, and have total faith and confidence in him and his staff that they'll maximize this roster.
This is my fourth season with the team, Jon, and leading up to the trade deadline, people always they're like, hey, what's going on? And my answer is always, well, Jon Horst is like one of the smartest people, and I know he's always working on something. Talk about like 4 seasons with this team. A couple years ago, you all get PJ Tucker at the deadline. Last season, it was Serge Ibaka and then Javon Carter. You're always looking to do something, but the team is always solid. So how do you navigate the fact that you've got a good group, but you're always looking to get better? How do you navigate those opportunities with both the trade deadline and the buyout market?
Yeah, I think it's tough because every year when we start the season, we work really hard to put a team together that we believe in, and we did believe in this team as constructed. But just like Bud pushes them every day, starting with training camp, to figure out how to get better, to increase the individual skill set, to increase the team's opportunity and output every single day, the coaches try to get better. That's our responsibility as a front office, to figure out how to make this team better every day. And so we don't just rest on, hey, we built a great team in the off season, let's go see what happens. We're constantly figuring out, okay, we built a great team, we believe in this team, if this is our team, we're ready to roll, but how can we get better? What are the things that we can do? And I think it's not my nature to kind of stand still and just watch and see what happens. It's definitely my nature, good or bad, to continue to be aggressive, to continue to push the envelope and figure out different ways to continue to constantly improve. And I think that's why you've seen us be active every time, at every deadline and every opportunity to improve this team. It doesn't mean that we always improve it. Sometimes we make mistakes, and if we make mistakes, we adjust. But we're constantly looking to push this team and become better. And so the spirit of why we do it and the way in which we do it, I have total confidence in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I'm always fascinated with all the transactions, right, and the trades, because you're constantly talking with people with other teams, not just you, like every team does it. Look at the last trade deadline and all the moves that are made. What has to come together in order for these things to be completed?
I think free agency is hard, the draft is hard, but the trades are really hard, in my opinion, the hardest thing to execute, because there are so many different initiatives and agendas that have to come together. Often you're dealing with a buyer's mentality and a seller's mentality, and often in extreme cases. There's always an agent component, there's always a financial component, there's always a asset component via draft capital or different things like that. And so to put a trade together, you have to, I believe, understand not only what your desires are, or your agendas, or your goals. You have to really work hard through intel gathering, through communications, through conversations, and really learning what other teams, what they want, what are their agendas, what are their goals, what are the things they're trying to satisfy. And you have to consider those things. If you continue, in my opinion, if you attack trades just by this is what we need to get out of it, it's really hard to get a deal done. We try really hard to say, this is what we want to get out of it. What does that team need to get out of it, so that we can try to figure out how to put a deal together? And a lot of times, it's not just 2 teams. You look at our trade that we executed this deadline, I believe it ended up being 4 teams. I think last year was a 4-team deal. We may have done a 5-team deal in the past. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, but it's every one of those principal partners have to get what they want out of it. And I believe you have to have an openness and an understanding what those other teams want to actually put a deal together.
So now on the other side of the trade deadline, but you all still have 2 roster spots left. One of them you're obligated to fill. What's the plans with those?
Yeah, so NBA rules will necessitate us to fill that 14th spot at some point here in the future. But overall, like, our goal with those 2 spots, with the 14th and 15th spot, is to try to finish off this team in the right way. And there's a lot of different things that will go into that. Hopefully it won't be injury based, but it could be. We'll see how the season unfolds. Hopefully it'll be to add depth, to add talent, to better fit this roster together. And if we have the opportunity at the end of the year to also take some sort of future bet on a young player or a developing player, that'll be something we look at. But we've got time, there's no urgency. We have some targets, we have some things that we're thinking about, and we will either pursue or we have pursued, and we'll kind of go from there. But there's not a real urgency on it. We love this team as constructed, but they are 2 real opportunities to hopefully, one, improve our odds this year, but also maybe have some sort of future go forward as well.
Where are you all looking to improve the most? And I'm not talking names, I'm talking more themes of the game.
Yeah, great question. I think positional depth, I feel great in kind of the middle of our roster. So if you think of like the 2, 3, 4, like more of our forwards and big guards, I think we have a ton of talent in options and versatility and how we can guard and how we can play. We obviously have a great point guard, we have a great center, we have great backups, but I think we could use more depth on either end, whether it be kind of a 4-5 or a 2-1 or a 1-2. So that's something we'll look at. But again, love the team as it's constructed. If this was the team that went into the playoffs, like, we would be very happy with it. But we'll continue to push and try to figure out, if there's just one little thing that we can do to give us a little better chance of winning, we'll do it. To me, one of the greatest examples is Game 6, NBA Eastern Conference Finals against the Atlanta Hawks. Jeff Teague came in and I think made 4 threes, 4 threes, whatever it was. Jeff was a late season buyout. I think ended up being from the Orlando Magic. Got traded from Boston to Orlando, got bought out. Played for us a little bit, throughout the playoffs, but not a ton. And then in that game was massive for us, and in a closing out game to go to the NBA Finals. And so you never know like who could help or how it manifests itself. And so that's our job, is to constantly look to see if there's anything we can add that could potentially have an impact.
How would you like to see the guys utilize the rest of the regular season?
I think everyone's motivated to finish as strong as we possibly can. Our health is trending up, and so I think we're all excited about the opportunity of being our best selves at the right time and really playing together. So I'd love to just see our group get reps together, get more opportunity to play together. It's a tough schedule. Like I said earlier, we've got 6 back-to-backs, I think, in our 12 games. If you say 24, so 50% of our games are off of a back-to-back or part of a back-to-back. We'll play a lot of playoff teams, some home, some away. So I'd love to see us really maximize our performance in those opportunities to really build some good habits. And I want to stay healthy. I think we need to balance staying healthy with having a top seed in the conference. Top seeds matter. And so I don't know if it's the number one thing, but it's absolutely important. And so we've got to continue to focus on that as well.
Yeah, my next question was going to be about the seeding. At what point, I don't know if it was during the 21 run or last season or even before that, that displays like how important home court advantage is. What do you think of the importance of that? What kind of value do you put on seeding?
Yeah, it's important. Someone can fact check me here. I think we're 10-1 in home playoff games in the last 2 years. It absolutely matters. Again, I don't think it's essential. Like, we won an NBA championship out of the 3-hole. Teams win the championship out of non-number 1 seeds all the time. But if you could have home court advantage throughout, and if you can be healthy and you can be playing well, like, that's the gold standard. And so it's our job, Bud and I really, and the players, we work with our players on this to figure out what matters most and try to manage it. But if we could accomplish all those things, that would be incredible. If we can't, we have to sacrifice something. That's our job to figure out what we're going to sacrifice. But we're in a position right now. That's somewhere that's obtainable. And so I think it's on us to really continue to focus on it and play hard and play our guys in big, meaningful games and play their minutes to try to obtain a top seed. It's obtainable.
Talked about home court advantage at home this season. You all are one of the best teams in the league. You've mentioned health a lot in this conversation, but I thought we'd leave the viewers with your formula to win a championship. It includes health, but it includes a couple other things too.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my formula. I don't want to take ownership of it, but I just through years of experience and being around champions, I worked with Joe Dumars, who's a mentor of mine, and then John Hammond, and I'm sure Bud picked up some of this in San Antonio, and we talk about it a lot in sports. You have to be healthy, you have to be good, and you have to be lucky. And we have a really good team, and I think we've made them better. So our talent, I think, is good enough, and I think it's trending up with the transactions that we made and that we will make. Our health, knock on wood, is in a great position right now and trending up, and we really need to not only obtain that currently, but we need to maintain it throughout a deep run. And a lot of how you manage a regular season plays into your health and your energy and your willingness to really compete every single night in the playoffs as well. And then you got to be lucky. We have no control over that. So for me, I'll say my prayers, and for other people, they'll do whatever they do. But I do think that those 3 things absolutely have to be present for you to ultimately win. It's sports. It's a bounce of a ball. It's a stepping on a line or not stepping on a line. That's how it works in this business. And we'll do everything we can to control that and be in the best position we can. But I love the way we're trending right now.
Well, Jon, a fun run is ahead. We're all affirming that, and as always, appreciate the time, and thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks, Zora.